Shalom, welcome to the Jewish Task Force, J.T.F. My name is Chaim Ben Pesach, and this week we're going to discuss results of a new Washington Post poll taken among American Jews that may be shocking to many of our viewers. How disloyal American Jews, or most of them are, toward Israel, and the hatred that many American Jews feel toward their own people and toward Israel. It's just shocking and disgusting. But it really shows what difficult challenges we have ahead of us, and we can't ignore this reality that we're facing. We've got to face up to it, and we've got to confront this reality, and that's what J.T.F. is working to do. But before we get to this shocking poll and the consequences of this poll and what we have to do about it, this program is dedicated to a refuah shlema, complete recovery for Shlomo ben Sarah, Ruth bat Sarah, Dorit bat Sarah, Ruven ben Shoshana, and Ashedina bat Violet, and to Ilui Neshemot, elevating of the souls for Sharon Mitman, Malka bat Meir, Allegra bat Shlomo, Daniel Nankin, Victor Chazdai, Pesach Zev ben Dov, Lunita Adler, Shifra Hoffman, Ruven Hoffman, Barry Hoffman, Harab Mir Kahana, Harab Binyamin Kahana, Tzipora Fegi bat Liba, Yosef ben Meir, Robert Mitman, Dennis Shore, Helen Friedman, Charles Zolat, Yair Levine, Rachel D., and David Ben Avraham. A new poll was taken by the Washington Post. Now, of course, the Washington Post is very anti-Semitic. And the multi-billionaire owner of the Washington Post, Bezos, is a vicious Jew hater. So you can say that the poll is biased, but I think that in general, what the poll says reflects a reality in the Jewish community, and you see it through voting patterns. You see how 78% of American Jews voted in 2008 to elect a Muslim Jew hater, Barack Hussein Osama, President of the United States, someone who had a history of vicious, monstrous hatred toward Israel and the Jewish people, who spent 8 years trying to destroy Israel, trying to help Iran build nuclear bombs, doing everything he could with his Iran nuclear deal to enable the Iranians to build nuclear bombs to incinerate Israel, trying to do everything he could to get Israel to go back to pre-1967 suicide borders and create a Palestinian terrorist state, which would be suicidal for Israel. And Jews, 78% of Jews voted for this monster. So, when you look at the history of American Jewry and what they did during the Holocaust, how they voted for Franklin Delano Roosevelt, that monster that enabled the German Nazis to murder 6 million Jews during the Holocaust, and did everything he could to prevent the rescue of Jews during the Holocaust. And Jews voted overwhelmingly for him as well and adored him and worshipped him. When you see this type of behavior, this poll is actually not that shocking for those who are familiar with the history of what American Jews have turned into. And of course, there's a minority of American Jews that are not like this, but they're a minority. Okay? The reality is most American Jews long ago betrayed Israel and betrayed the Jewish people and have turned into self-hating Jews who despise their own people. And that's what this poll reflects. Now, we also have to make it clear here, though, that this is not a reflection of the Jewish people in our generation, because the overwhelming majority of Israeli Jews are not like this. There are 5 million Jews in America, about 5 million Jews in America, and about 7 million Jews in Israel. Most of the Jews of the world now, a slight majority, live in Israel. Majority of the world's Jews now live in the Jewish state in Israel. And Israeli Jews are overwhelmingly right-wing, overwhelmingly patriotic, overwhelmingly very concerned about the future of Israel, even though they vote for politicians who are phony right, but their heart is in the right place. They think by voting for people on the phony right that they're going to get right-wing policies. They're wrong, and we have to try to correct that and educate them and wake them up. But at least Israeli Jews love Israel and care about Israel and serve in the army and live in the Jewish state and very much are concerned about the future of the Jewish state, at least most of them. So in Israel, we see the opposite of what we see in America. The good Jews, most of the good Jews, the overwhelming majority of the good Jews in the world live in Israel. And most of the bad Jews live in the United States and outside of Israel. Now, having said that, you may say, well, the Washington Post, that they distort, that they have biased polling. You may say that, but again, I think this reflects the poll actually accurately reflects what Jews have actually, the actual voting patterns of Jews and the way they behaved over the years and the way they contribute money to anti-Jewish causes. Here's what the poll says. The poll, by the way, was taken between September 2nd and September 9th, 2025. So it was taken a little bit over a month, or it was taken about a month before we're doing this broadcast. 61% of American Jews say that Israel has carried out war crimes in Gaza. Israel's carrying out war crimes. Israel defending herself against 1.5 billion Muslims that want to push the Jews into the sea and exterminate the Jewish people. 1.5 billion Muslims who have slaughtered millions of their fellow Muslims. The Muslim world has already carried out holocausts against their own brothers and sisters, let alone what they would do to the hated Jews, the hated Christians, and the hated non-Muslim infidels. They're not joking when they say that they want to slaughter the non-Muslim infidels, including the Jews, and especially the Jews. And the Muslim world, 2 million Muslims were annihilated in the Iran-Iraq war by their fellow Muslims. 1 million Arabs were slaughtered by their fellow Arabs in Syria in the Syrian civil war. In all the years of Syrian civil war, about 1 million Arabs were slaughtered by their fellow Arabs. And they used acid and poison gas on children and the cruelty, the monstrous cruelty. In Lebanon, 500,000 Arabs were slaughtered by their fellow Arabs in the Lebanese civil wars since the 1970s. In Sudan and Eritrea and that whole area, the Horn of Africa, 2 million Africans have been slaughtered by Muslim regimes in North Sudan. 2 million have been slaughtered, at least 2 million. That's a conservative estimate. 250,000 Algerian Muslims have been slaughtered by their fellow Algerian Muslims in the Algerian civil war. I can go on and on and on. This is a cruel, vicious, murderous group of nations that carry out real genocide and real war crimes against their own men, women, and children with sadistic brutality that is beyond description. And they focus all their attention on this tiny Jewish state because the fact that there's a Jewish state that survives in the middle of the Muslim world, this is intolerable. The Jews actually have a piece of land in the middle of what they claim is the Muslim world, what they claim is Muslim land. It's not Muslim, the Muslim land, please. It was never theirs. Never. Everything they ever had was all through conquest and with the sword and murder and mass murder. That's what Muhammad spread Islam, with the sword. He didn't go out handing out missionary tracts to people or having the Muslim 700 club. He went out with the sword and spread Islam. If you didn't accept it, they cut your throat. And the Quran itself describes what Muhammad did, how he beheaded Jewish men and Jewish boys and raped Jewish women. And the Quran brags about it. And how he signed peace treaties and then made surprise attacks after signing a peace treaty, lied and made surprise attacks. And the Quran and the Hadith praise the Prophet. Oh, he showed them. We got them, the infidels. Yeah, they believed us. And this Israel, this tiny Jewish state, outnumbered 100 to 1, at least 100 to 1, if not more, surrounded by these bloodthirsty tyrants and mass murderers and terrorists trying to survive. And after this horrific massacre on October 7th of 2023, where they burned Jewish babies in front of their mothers and raped Jewish women in front of their husbands and cut people's heads off and kidnapped babies and children and women and cut babies out of women's stomachs, ripped the clothes off of Jewish women and paraded them around naked throughout Gaza, while the Gazans were laughing and spitting at them and throwing stones at them and attacking them and grabbing them. After 6 million Jews were murdered in the Holocaust, the people who survived the Holocaust come to Israel, and this is what they're going to get, and they're going to tolerate this. They tolerate this, they're doomed. And so what they're doing in Gaza is not 1% of what they should be doing. First of all, they should throw all the Muslim Nazi terrorists out, which means the whole terrorist population, everyone in that terrorist population that supports Hamas, out. The Gazans, Donald Trump proposed moving the Gazans out, the Gazan Arabs out. That's what Israel should have done immediately. Unfortunately, the Jews in Israel have a phony right traitor from the deep state, Netanyahu, who didn't do that. Who didn't do what Trump, we had this historic opportunity, and he didn't take that opportunity that Trump gave him when Trump said, get them out. Now Trump has turned against Israel and is pressuring Israel to do things that are bad. The latest Trump plan on Gaza is very bad. But it's because Netanyahu and the traitor Jewish leaders of Israel did not do what has to be done from the beginning. What we said had to be done from the beginning. What the Hilltop Youth said had to be done from the beginning. What Moshe Feiglin and the Zehut Party said had to be done from the beginning. Israelis ignored that. They believed Netanyahu, even though Netanyahu brought them the October 7th massacre. Very foolish. And I'm not saying Netanyahu is foolish or the Jew, then he's not foolish. He's evil. He deliberately misled the Jews of Israel. He's evil. But the Jews of Israel who followed him, they're foolish. Now, 61% of American Jews blame Israel and say Israel is carrying out war crimes in Gaza. 39% say that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Genocide. Israel's trying to wipe out all the Arabs. Israel could wipe out the Arabs in Gaza in 1 hour. Israel has the means to wipe out all the Arabs in Gaza very, very quickly. Israel has the weapons of mass destruction to do it, and even if they didn't want to do weapons of mass destruction, they could very quickly and very easily wipe out all the Arabs in Gaza. Instead, they're sending tons, hundreds and thousands of tons of food into Gaza, enough food to feed half the world. And then the Gazans claim they're starving. All these phony, lying propaganda scenes that we're seeing from Gaza, which are all lies. Only 51% of American Jews said no when they were asked if Israel's committing genocide in Gaza. Israel's committing genocide. The Arabs openly promise to commit genocide, openly promise to exterminate every last Jew and every last non-Muslim, openly promising this. And Israel defending herself against this, Israel, the victim, is accused of genocide, of committing the genocide. This is like saying the 6 million Jews during the Holocaust, they committed genocide against the German people during the Holocaust. That's what it's like saying. It's the same thing. And American Jews, 39% of American Jews say, yeah, Israel's committing genocide. 61% Israel's committing war crimes. 32% of American Jews say America supports Israel too much. American Jews complaining that America supports Israel too much. And you see all the Jewish Democrat politicians saying that and going along with that. May their names and memories be obliterated. May the name of the wicked rot. That's the blessing I just gave to all those Jewish Democrat politicians. And to all the Jewish billionaires that fund all of this self-hatred, these Judenrat capos. 50% of young Jews in the poll, in other words, between the ages of 18 and 34, 50% of young Jews say that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Half of the young Jews in the poll say, oh yes, Israel's committing genocide. And you know, the young Jews, the younger you are, the more self-hating you are among American Jews. The younger the Jews are, the more self-hating they are. The worse it is. If each age group has, which means the future is very bad. There is no future outside of Israel. In Israel, it's the opposite. The younger you are, the more right-wing and patriotic you are, the more religious you are, the more devoted you are to Israel. Only in Israel, the Jews are like, the younger you are, you see the future is a bright future of patriotism and idealism and sacrifice and love of the country and love of the Jewish people and faith in God. The younger you are, the more you're in that camp, the good camp. But in America and outside of Israel among Jews, the younger you are, the worse you are, the more evil you are. 59% of the Jews in the poll said that they're in favor of a Palestinian terrorist state. They didn't say terrorist, of course, I'm saying terrorist. Of a Palestinian terrorist state, which would be suicide for Israel. First of all, there's no such thing as a Palestinian people or Palestine. Never was, never will be. How many American Jews understand that? They're so lazy and so unconcerned and only worried about themselves and their own little lives. You think any of them really give a damn about what happens to Israel? Not many. If they did, they'd be supporting J.T.F. because we're the one group that is really helping the Jewish heroes in Israel. If you love Israel, if you care about Israel, J.T.F. is the group you're going to support. All the other groups that I know of are not doing what has to be done, not doing the critical stuff. J.T.F. is the group you should support if you genuinely care about Israel and love Israel and want to protect Israel. And 62% of American Jews in the poll said that the Gaza Arabs should be given free elections to decide who should rule over them. In other words, instead of throwing them out, which by the way, is super moderate, we just advocate removing them after what they did. That's super moderate. They want to exterminate us. We're just saying move them out. We're very moderate. But no, 62% of American Jews say they should be given new elections to decide who their leaders are. Even though in the last elections they voted for Hamas, overwhelmingly voted for Hamas. And the ones who didn't vote for Hamas voted for Fatah, another terrorist organization. 98 or 97 or 98% of Gazan Arabs voted for terrorist organizations in the elections. The same thing in Judea and Samaria. 97 or 90, it was between 97 and 98% voted for terrorist organizations. The other 2 or 3% voted for some candidate who was saying we're going to have some form of coexistence. He's also a phony, but still he only got 2 or 3% of the vote. They hate the Jews with such vile, fanatic envy. They detest the Jews. They were thrilled when the Jews were slaughtered on October 7th. Thrilled. They're thrilled when they see scenes of the Holocaust, the Nazi Holocaust. They love this. They show on Egyptian television, on Jordanian television, on Saudi television, they show pictures of the Holocaust. Not to show how horrible it was, but to say, oh, this was wonderful what they did. We're going to do the same thing to the Jews of Israel. And they literally say that, by the way, on Egyptian television. That's with a country we have a peace treaty with. We have a peace treaty with Egypt. Yeah, some peace. Like the peace of Hitler and Chamberlain, peace in our time. They made peace treaties with Hitler too. Let's understand something here. We need to have an organization that doesn't pull any punches here. We have enough of the organizations who are so cowardly and mealy-mouthed and who refuse to tell the truth and they themselves spread lies. Organizations like AIPAC. That's the so-called Jewish lobby that supports creating a Palestinian terrorist state, which would leave Israel in borders that are 6 to 9 miles wide, borders that even Abba Eban, the Israeli foreign minister, said are Auschwitz lines, borders that Golda Meir, the socialist left-wing prime minister of Israel, once said that any Jew who supports this is a traitor. And the AIPAC traitors who support that, they're the Jews say, oh, you support Israel, you got to support AIPAC because they're going to get foreign aid. We have to have foreign aid. What are we going to do without foreign aid? Foreign aid, quote unquote, only hurts Israel. The best thing you can do for Israel is cut off foreign aid and force Israel to become independent. And God gave the Jews and Israel all the tools to do that. Yes. The biggest myth is that Israel doesn't survive. Israel survives because of America. Israel does not survive because of America. America and American foreign aid hurt Israel. There is one group of Jews in Israel that if you watch this program on a regular basis, is doing the most wonderful, spectacular work. Just as we should be ashamed of these American Jews, this drek, that support all of our enemies and are all assimilated, intermarried, self-hating. Drek. We should be ashamed and disgusted and repelled by them. And those of you who say you have to love your fellow Jews, I don't love traitors. Self-hating traitors, I don't love. V'lemalshenim al tehi tikva. We pray 3 times a day unto the informers, may there be no hope. We curse traitors in our prayers 3 times a day. Okay? Traitors, we don't love. We do love our fellow Jews, even if they make mistakes, even if they're wrong, even if they disagree and don't understand and do things that are wrong, and even if they're sinful and do bad things, we do have to love our fellow Jews. We do have to bring them back and warn them and do everything we can to save them. Yes, that's true. But not if they're traitors, if they're informing traitors, snitches, and rats that work with the other side already and join the other side against their own people to destroy their own people. No, that you don't love. That's too much. We don't love Bernie Sanders or Schmuck Schumer. Okay? Or Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, whose family finances every anti-Israel, anti-Semitic cause under the sun. He's like, his family, the Pritzker family, are multi-billionaires, and they fund the same type of causes that George Soros funds. Traitors, the lowest of the low, work to destroy their own people. We don't love them. We hate them. We hate them. And we're commanded to hate them. But the good Jews, the real Jewish heroes who deserve our support, are the Hilltop Youth. And those of you who hear the results of this poll and are shocked or are shocked when you see anti-Semitic behavior on the part even of other Jews, those of you who are concerned about this, don't just be concerned. Do something. Just saying you're concerned and going on with your lives, that's the cheapest thing you can do. The cheapest thing you can do. Very cheap to say, I'm worried, I'm concerned, and then not do anything. Okay? If you really care, you're going to take action. And action means supporting the Jewish heroes, the Hilltop Youth, who are in Judea and Samaria and preventing the Arabs from creating a Palestinian terrorist state and taking as much land as they can take. They're constantly taking up more and more land there to prevent the Arabs from taking over and moving more and more Jewish families there. That's what must be done to stop this. There is no other practical solution. Everything else is talk. Everything else is talk. Everything else adds up to nothing. The only ones who are actually doing something are the Hilltop Youth. And that's who we should be supporting. Here's how you support the heroic Hilltop Youth. And J.T.F. is the only organization outside of Israel that supports the Hilltop Youth. If you live in Israel, then and you can make your donations in shekels. Shekel is the Israeli currency. And you can make your donations in shkelim. In Hebrew we say shkelim. If you can do that, find the Hilltop Youth, the genuine Hilltop Youth. Find their fundraising groups. They have GoFundMe and Hebrew versions of GoFundMe, and give to them. That you should do, okay? But if you live in Israel, then you can give in Israel directly to them. But if you live in the United States or you live outside of Israel, J.T.F. is the only organization outside of Israel supporting them. And if you don't know how to find the fundraising groups and you just out of sense of convenience just want to donate, you can, even if you live in Israel, you can donate to J.T.F. It's all going to go. Everything we raise, 100% of our budget is going to go to this cause. 100% of our budget. We don't pay any salaries here. And we don't have offices and don't pay salaries and don't, none of that. And to prove what type of organization this is, the biggest donor to the Hilltop Youth today is me, okay, out of my own pocket. And the only reason I say that is because I want you to know that your money really is going 100% to the Hilltop Youth. I myself have given hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Hilltop Youth, and I'm very proud of it. Not everybody is going to do that, but you can give as much as you can. Every donation makes a difference. And the reason I mention that is that you know how important this is, how vital this is. My whole life is devoted to this. And so you understand. so that you'll understand the importance of this and you understand how committed JTF really is to this cause. Completely committed to this cause. Here's how you support the heroic Hilltop Youth. You go to our Hebrew main page, hayamin.org. Now, most of the page is in Hebrew, but there's a donate button on top in English, a big donate button on top in English. You click on the donate button on top, and you can, in several minutes, easily and conveniently donate. You can make recurring monthly donations, you can make one-time donations, or both. That's if you want to support the Hilltop Youth online. If you want to do it with regular mail, you just make checks and money orders out to JTF and you send it to JTF PO Box 650327, Fresh Meadows, New York 11365. And of course, you should leave JTF in your will. And if somebody wants to have a cocktail party in their home or some fundraiser, wants to hold a fundraiser for the Hilltop Youth and invite their friends over, or if they're wealthy Jews out there that want to make the Hilltop Youth their baby, please contact us for that. Please. We want to do that. We want to help the Hilltop Youth if you want to raise serious money for them. But even our donors that can't afford to give large amounts or whatever you're going to give, every donation makes a difference. We welcome every donation of every size. In the end, it's the Hilltop Youth Jews that are going to win, not the self-hating Jews in this Washington Post poll. They're going to disappear just like the Jews, the 80% of the Jews in Egypt that didn't leave with Moshe Rabbeinu and Aharon, with Moses and Aaron before Pesach. 80% of the Jews stayed in Egypt and disappeared. They were either they were physically eliminated or they just assimilated and were spiritually eliminated, one or the other, but they disappeared. They disappeared from connection to the Jewish people. The Hilltop Youth are our connection to the real Jewish heroism and idealism that we should be supporting. It's incumbent upon all of us to be part of this struggle. Their fight is our fight. For JTF, until next week, this is Chaim Ben Pesach. Shalom.